Welcome to this all-new edition of the Fairfax Sports Report. It's our spring preview blowout here on the Fairfax Sports Report. This all-new edition. If you're tuning in for basketball, well, you're 1 week too late, guys, because it's all about spring sports now. We're jumping in hardcore into our baseball preview. We're going to have a special segment for you tonight, folks. Lauren Trainer, 2006 Westfield grad, is going to be bringing us our new occasional series, the Fairfax Sports Report's Alumni Spotlight. Stay tuned for that. But for now, guys, let's thank the folks at home that make this show possible. And of course, we're talking about our underwriters, also known as our teammates. CCI Screen Printing for all your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. Another one of our stellar teammates is Quality Care Ford Service Center. They're servicing all makes and models at 703-383-6299. And Triple Edge Lacrosse, one of our new teammates at www.tripleedgelax.com. Go to the website for details. Triple Edge Lacrosse. Well, guys, speaking of lacrosse, we're going to get to talk all about lacrosse and the Northern Region top performers. Of course, the state champion, the first ever state champion in lacrosse for both boys and girls, was both from the Northern Region last year. Stay tuned in this show. We're going to give you the Triple Edge Lacrosse Report coming up. But for now, guys, let's close out the basketball season. Let's talk about the openings in the boys for the Northern Region. There's a lot of jobs up for grabs right now, and these are some of the top jobs where a lot of the last couple Northern Region titles have been housed. Of course, starting right off the bat, we're going to talk about South Lakes. That's where Coach Wendell Bird coached for 23 seasons. He had a 441 and 133 record. That is just one of the jobs open right now in Reston. There's going to be a bit of a power struggle there for the Reston and Herndon kids. As you can see, Gary Hall stepped down after 18 seasons, won the region last year with Scotty Reynolds, now the Big East Rookie of the Year. He's posted a 319 record and 136. Hayfield's Dave Abella, after 2 seasons gone at Hayfield, had some family issues that he has since stepped down. And after 1 season, Oakton's Dave Spanbauer becomes the third coach to leave in 4 years. Those are the open hoops jobs for the boys basketball region coaching scene. John Marcario, I ask you got a chance to talk to Steve Kewer over at Hayfield about the Dave Abella, resignation, if you will. Talk a little bit about that. I mentioned that there are some family things that are taking Coach Abella away from the game.
It's some family things, nothing's big. He's having a kid. He just recently got married, opened a brand new restaurant, so Coach, check that one out. They're looking to fill that position in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So hopefully, they were 2004 Northern Region champs, and then the South County Hayfield split, and haven't been the same since then.
And then Hayfield, obviously a region champ. Herndon was a region champ just last year. So 2 of the last regional championship jobs are up for grabs. And of course, when you throw South Lakes in the mix, I mentioned that power struggle because depending on who's going to take over in that Reston and Herndon area, a lot of those kids are always kind of on the fence when they're coming up through the youth ranks. And I know that sounds crazy to talk about young youth coming up through the ranks and who goes where, but really at this point, guys, high school has become kind of almost like the old college where guys are really looking to who they're going to go play for in high school to then advance to the next level. And Wendell Bird and Gary Hall over at Herndon, Bird over at South Lakes, those were 2 guys that were just fixtures in the Northern Region coaching community. Those guys are now gone. Okay, so you did get a little bit of your basketball fix here tonight. Check the website at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com for more of those details to come. But right now, we are moving in to the spring season, and we're doing our baseball blowout preview. Tonight we're going to start off with the Concord District. One of the stronger districts in baseball, has produced a lot of the top prospects that have come out of this area. Of course, talking about Brandon Snyder, of course, one of the top 20 draft picks just 2 years ago over from Westfield, just to name a few that have come out of this district. There's been several more. Of course, another Westfield guy that we're going to talk about tonight that's doing great at the next level is Justin Borpaul. You got a chance to do a little reporting about him. But let's jump right into those Concord District final season standings from last year and show the folks at home exactly where these teams ended up after play last year. Westfield right up at the top of the district with the best district record at 10-2 and 17-6 overall. Oakton advanced further than any team in the Northern Region, going all the way to the state final, but they only posted a 9-3 record in the district, 19-8 overall. You've got Robinson coming in with a lot of hype, John. We're going to get a chance to talk about those Rams. Last year at only 7-5, 16-9 overall. Centerville, Morgan Spencer, a new coach from Madison, goes over to take over the Wildcats. That is a team that a lot of coaches are talking about in the preseason, and they believe that's going to be a sleeper team. Fairfax at 5-7 in the district last year and 13-11 overall. Herndon, first season under 500 in 15 years last year, and then Chantilly struggled a bit in district. Didn't have too bad of an overall record, guys. So when we look at last year, that is often telling of the upcoming year. But in this district, it's always a battle between some of the top dogs, the Oaktons, the Westfields, the Robinsons, and those are the teams that have traditionally been the powerhouses. Let's show the folks, before we get too far into the Concord district, let's show the folks at home kind of the players to watch in that district, and then we'll get a chance to break down each team. Right there, Paul, you see Brandon Padula of Oakton. He has college aspirations, and when you hit 8 home runs on the season, that often will take you to the next level.
Moving down, you have Alfredo Rodriguez. His teammate at Oakton at shortstop, he hit .354. Moving on down the list, another Oakton player, Keith Werman. A catcher, he hit .332.
And Keith is a guy, after 3 years of playing on varsity, his older brother also a Werman that played at UVA, I believe. And Ben Kalachi, right out of Herndon at .350 last year, a second baseman. He's a guy they're really going to be relying on right there.
You also see a familiar name on the list, Matt Snyder, younger brother of Brandon Snyder. Him and his twin Mike Snyder are both looking to make an impact for Westfield this year. Matt hit 26 RBIs last year.
Hey, Patrick Summers over at Chantilly, one of the guys from a no-name team, if you will, a 4.91 ERA.
You look at that and you might say a little bit, but he is, according to the coach, the most consistent pitcher on that team. He has all his pitches down, and he should make a difference this year.
And John, a guy on that list that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet, but we'll do it now, Danny Diana out of Robinson, a guy that had 10 home runs last year, hit .480. He's a first baseman coming back. Robinson getting a lot of hype in the preseason.
Robinson is deserving of a lot of hype. They returned 9 seniors from a team that finished 3rd in the Concord, went to the regional quarterfinals last year. Diana is one of 2 or 3 players on that team that are getting looks from colleges. They have one player that signed with George Washington University. I want to talk about them a little bit. They were a really legit contender this year, not only in district, but in regional play.
And speaking of legit contenders, people are always looking at Westfield. What are they producing? You know, at Westfield, they always have the big athletes. And sometimes when you get good coaching, which I do believe they have at Westfield, you can kind of meld those kids into top performers. Justin Bohr, though, Paul, is a top performer already at the collegiate level out of Westfield last year. Tell us a little bit about what he's been able to accomplish.
Well, Justin Bohr, again, mentioning Brandon Snyder. Justin Bohr is the kid that last year broke most of Brandon Snyder's records at Westfield. Just a big first baseman that could hit the ball a mile. He went on to play with his brother at George Mason University, and he had what was called one of the best weeks in college baseball, where he hit 3 grand slams in 1 week, 2 in 1 game. That set a George Mason record. He also batted .500 during that week and had 10 RBIs in that 2 Grand Slam game.
It may have set a George Mason record, but it probably also set a record for worst pitching performance out of an opposing team that they might have seen. But really, that's what we're talking about when we talk about Westfield. Well, they always have a kid that steps into that role.
That is what we talk about, and they have for the past 7 years. They've had a kid. Coach Chuck Welch told me, in his 7th year, he's been with the program since inception, he told me that this is the first time in 7 years they have a young team.
Right.
They have a team that they're not quite sure about. They lost Bohr, they lost second baseman Val Arduni, they lost outfielder Chris McMahon and outfielder Matt Elliott. They lost their big hitters. So what they're doing right now is, you know Westfield's reputation, you know Coach Chuck Welch's reputation, so they should be fine, as everybody's telling me. But they lost some heavy hitters, and they just don't know right now. With the weather being so bad, they just don't know.
And so you lose one Snyder 1 year, you replace him with a Bohr, and now you get 2 Snyders back. I don't know how you can really lose in that situation. Speaking of a team that lost in a tough situation, though, last year, guys, Oakton. We had Coach Scott Rowland on on with us in the last edition of the spring episode on the Fairfax Sports Report last year. And he told us all about how, basically, guys, in my words, not his, Oakton was essentially robbed in the state final last year. I'll say it now. Time has passed. The flags aren't going to go up, and I don't think we'll get too many emails. But Monacan won on a controversial call. Oakton staged a late rally, but I got a chance to talk to Coach Scott Rowland about that. And he said, look, there was a lot of things that we could have done different early in that game to really put ourselves in a better situation to win that game. They lost 9-8 on an obstruction call that ended the game in controversy. Officials walked off the field. You never like to see a final, a state final, the last time any two teams will be playing in the state, end that way. But they're back from that. They're not dwelling on it. As you saw from our Concord District players to watch, you noticed there was 3 Oakton Cougars on that list: Brandon Padula, Alfredo Rodriguez, and Keith Werman. Now, Oakton has always been a team that maybe doesn't even always get all the headlines in Vienna when you're dealing with a team out of the Liberty like Madison. But they're a team that's always right in the mix, guys. We're going to get a chance to talk more about Oakton when we're joined by one of their rivals. Jason Farley is going to be joining us on the show later. Jason Farley, a preseason All-American with Madison, and we'll talk to him when we get into our Liberty District preview. John, we touched a little bit on Robinson. We're going to get back to those Rams because they seem to be a team that's drawing a lot of preseason attention. But, Paul, before we do that, speaking of Madison, there's a former Madison coach, an assistant coach, Morgan Spencer, now with Centerville. Centerville, really all we know about Centerville at this point is that Coach Morgan Spencer from Madison is with that team.
And that does tell you a lot with Coach Morgan Spencer. He led the Warhawk Junior Varsity team to a 27-1 record in 2 of his 3 seasons under Madison head coach Mike Jormond. Also, what you need to know about Morgan Spencer is when he took over the job in the winter, he immediately had his players starting with off-season workouts. Every player I've talked to so far has talked about those off-season workouts, how Coach Spencer upped the intensity, how he has an infectious personality that made them want to strive to be the best they can, and I think you're going to be able to start seeing that when they start playing these games.
And you know, that infectious personality, he learned that from Pudge, okay? Let's be honest here. Mark Jorman over at Madison has put a lot of good coaches into this northern region, and from that lineage, you can see that we are going to probably see Centerville just jump leaps and bounds from where they were last year. I really believe that Centerville is going to surprise a lot of people.
One thing that Coach Spencer, speaking of that Madison program, that's really all he knows. He graduated from Madison in 1999, went to Greenville College, where he was a 2-time all-region selection as a pitcher, and then went back to Madison as a coach. So he is going to kind of use that Greenville program and that Madison program to build something of his own over at Centerville.
Okay, John, speaking of building something of their own, Robinson had a great season last year, I believe, up at the top of the Concord District. Danny Diana coming back. What can Robinson do this year? Can they push further in that Northern Region tournament?
Well, as you mentioned, they finished near the top of the district. There's a difference between having 9 seniors that are old but without playoff experience and 9 old seniors with playoff experience. Robinson has the playoff experience. They have the regional games. They have many, many district wins over the past 4 years. I'm sure many people around the region know the name, but I'll remind people again, A.J. Johnson, the pitcher, will be the difference maker for them this year. He sported a 2.36 ERA and had a 2-to-1 strikeout-to-walk ratio last year. That is just flat nasty. Diana and his cool 480 batting average, when you're getting hit at least 1 every 2 times up there, that's amazing in itself. When you bring back every key component from a regional quarterfinal team, have a dominating pitcher and a dominating hitter, that is great ingredients for a very magical season over there at Robinson.
Well, Herndon lost a key ingredient from last year when they struggled, 9-10. First, like I mentioned earlier, first sub-under 500 finish, if you will, in Coach Al McCulloch's 15 years. They've won 4 Concord District titles at Herndon, and they weren't even close last year. But they did so with no run support. Daniel Lombardozzi, a 1.88 ERA and 82 strikeouts last year, now playing at Coastal Carolina. Lombardozzi really had no help with the bats last year. They think they've remedied that. They've gotten a chance to really get in the cages and hit a lot, and they've talked about that a lot. Coach Al McCulloch thinking he has a young squad, but they have some holes to fill in still as well. Michael Hitty, a left-handed pitcher, only a 1-2 record last year with a 2.8 ERA. Not very big numbers because nobody really pitched that much except for Lombardozzi. He was really kind of the guy they relied on. Ben Kalachi returns the biggest bat for Herndon. He hit .350 last season. Paul, quickly on Chantilly, and John, I'm going to quiz you on Fairfax.
Okay, well, Chantilly, this is the second year for Coach Kevin Ford. He described last year as a rebuilding year. Well, who they're going to build around this year is pitchers Max Langford and Patrick Summers, who we mentioned. Summers, the more polished pitcher, Langford, the fireballer. So if they can build around some good pitchers, they can go far.
Boy, you've been talking to some coaches, haven't you?
Yes, I
The
have.
word fireballer must have come up at least 30 times in the last 2 weeks during our previews. John, any fireballers over at Fairfax?
Fairfax will rely on their pitching this year. They finished near the bottom at 13-11, 5-7 overall. Very confident group. Another senior-laden team looking for big things out of the Rebels this year, who have, as I mentioned, great pitching and solid defense.
All right, we're jumping in to the Liberty District right away, guys. This is the district that is really getting a lot of hype now. Of course, Madison, a number 9 ranking in the country, ranked highest possible team from this area ranked in the country at number 9. Let's show the folks, before we get to this year, let's show them at home exactly what Madison and the rest of that Liberty District did last year.
Well, as you see, last year the Warhawks were top of the district, 13-1 in district play, a sparkling 22-2 overall. In second was McLean, 10-4 in district play, 15-7 overall. Third, there you see Stonebridge, 9-5 in district play, 17-9 overall, followed by the Saxons. They were 8-6 in district play, a nice, respectable 15-10 overall. Then you get to Southlake, 6-9 in district play, a subpar 7-15 overall record. Woodson and Marshall tied with both 4-10 district records, and there you have Thomas Jefferson, 3-12 in district play, and 4-14 overall. Tough season.
And there's your 2006 final Liberty District standings. And of course, that's really only the way we can at this point kind of see where teams are, where they left off this year. And now we're going to really drop our knowledge as to what we've learned over the last 2 weeks as we've been talking to all these coaches for our previews in the Connection newspapers. Before we get to Jason Farley, we're going to get him on the phone with us in a minute. Jason Farley, a preseason Louisville Slugger All-American at Madison High School. Of course, he'll tell you when he's on the phone with us that he's going to care more about that honor when he gets it after the season's over. But let's show you the Liberty District players to watch. Jason Farley is obviously one of those, John, a left-hand pitcher, the Northern Region Player of the Year last year with a 10-1 record. And look at that ERA, a .54 ERA.
Yes, that's not a typo. That's not a mistake. You can't see it up there, but .54. That is a magical number. Also, you have up there Mike Stendleck from Stonebridge, the shortstop. He batted .429 batting average over there. Paul's giving me the look.
Let me go ahead and speak on Mike Stanzik. Stonebridge, I'll talk about this more, but Stonebridge lost 10 seniors from last year. Mike Stanzik will be one carrying the torch for the Bulldogs. Again, .429 batting average.
Yes, I botched that name. Sorry about that. We've also got Tyler Thompson over there from McLean, the outfielder. He batted a nice .375 with a solid 10 stolen bases there. Then we have Jacob Morley out of Woodson, the catcher and leader of that team. He had 6 home runs last year, but also batted .420. He will be the key to the Cavaliers having another successful season with a pitching staff coming back.
All right, and you mentioned Jacob Morley had 6 home runs last year, and I can guarantee you that none of those came off of the guy that's on the phone with us now. That is Jason Farley, a preseason Louisville Slugger All-American for the number 9 ranked Madison Warhawks in the country. Jason, are you with us?
Yes.
Jason, coming into this season, Paul Frummelt has a very simple question for you.
Jason, the Madison Warhawks are such a hype team right now. You being a preseason All-American, how are you guys handling that pressure of being so hyped in the preseason?
Really, we try not to look into the rankings and just go out and play because, one, it is preseason, and it is a great honor to be ranked so high, but that's really where we need to be at the end of the season, not at the beginning of the season.
And Jason, a Madison senior, a left-handed pitcher, headed to VMI, 84 strikeouts, a .54 ERA, and 10-1 record. Liberty District Player of the Year, and as we mentioned, a preseason All-American. Jason, I know a lot of teams were looking at you at the collegiate level. What went into your decision to go to VMI?
First off, I really like the coach, and I like the school. VMI, great education, which was an important part of my decision. And also, they've been pursuing me the long. They made me the right offer, and I couldn't turn it down.
Well, Jason, headed into this week, you guys are taking on 2 teams that gave you some trouble last year, McLean on Friday and Oakton on Saturday. And if you look at your record from last year, 22-2, the only 2 on the other side, the 2 losses were to McLean and Oakton. How do you guys approach this week? And I talked to Pudge earlier today. You guys got a little revenge on your mind, don't you?
Yeah, we do, but we also know that last year's last year, and this is a new year. and we're a different team, and we're going to go out there and play it just like any other game.
Jason, now if last year is last year and this year is this year, how in the world do you improve on a .54 ERA?
Well, it will be tough, but I have a great defense behind me, which always helps.
And speaking of that, you guys have a pitching staff as well that really did well last year. I believe the combined team ERA was 1.37. You've got guys like Sam Gilbert with a 5-0 record coming back from last year, .71 ERA, and Jesse Jeter. Jason, you're the lefty. You're the guy that really is, like Pudge says, you're the painter out there on the mound, and you're the guy they turn to, but you really got a lot of support out there on the mound. Talk a little bit about some of the other guys on the mound as well.
Well, we got Jesse Jeter, who is a junior, who had a great year last year, and he's going to come back this year and have another good year for us. Sam Gilbert came out of the pen a lot for us last year, and he'll get some starts this year as well, coming out of the pen. And also, we have a senior who was hurt last year, Brad Wimmer. He'll see a lot of innings. So our pitching staff is really deep, and I think it helps a lot because if for some reason anybody was to get in trouble, we know have a guy that can come in behind and shut it down.
Last night, you guys opened with Stonebridge, and that was kind of the situation. You guys came back from an early deficit. I know you were out on the mound and pitched 6 strong innings. I talked to Pudge today, and he said your pitch count was at about 75, and I know you normally like to go longer than that, but it's a cold day out there. Jason, talk a little bit about the rest of the Liberty District and who else is out there hunting for you.
Well, I think the district is very strong this year. Stonebridge, I thought they played really well last night, and that game could have gone either way. I thought we did a good job of fighting back and not getting ahead of ourselves. I'm sure Lang would be good. They all are a team, and they always play tough along with Woodson and McLean.
Well, hey, Jason, we certainly thank you for giving us some time here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Always welcomed guest here. You and Mr. Alex Andrews, I'm sure you're taking care of your battery mate over there headed to Mount St. Mary's, I believe, in Maryland. We'll be catching you guys out on the field. Take it easy tonight, and thanks for joining us, Jason.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, so guys, you know, you're talking right there to a preseason All-American. He's one of the reasons that Madison is ranked 9th in the country. Interestingly enough, we get a poll that we're going to be showing the folks at home soon enough. Once we're done with our baseball preview, we're going to show the folks at home the graphic that shows them our Northern Region coaches poll. Now, the coaches from the Northern Region, they do their own vote, and Madison does not enter this season as the #1 ranked team in the region, though they are ranked 9th in the country. We'll get more into that on that team that is ranked #1, John, when we get into that Patriot District. But as Jason said, guys, rankings are rankings.
Exactly. Preseason rankings, although they do give you a nice little barometer, nothing matters once the season started. So it's opinions. Pretty much we have coaches' opinions, we have the national opinion. All that matters is what happens on the diamond.
Well, and speaking of McLean, a team that really was scrappy last year. McLean is a team that had 3 guys make the all-region team just 1 year after they were, well, basically nothings. No one even knew their names. I don't want to say nothings, but you know the word I'm looking for. Coach John Thomas takes over that program, goes back to his alma mater. 3 Northern Region selections, Frankie Kavanaugh, Shane Mills, and Kyle Mayer. So, you know, that team was one of the teams that beat Madison last year and could have done it twice, guys, on a call that was, you know, went either way on what a lot of people believe was a home run. Bygones are bygones. It's a new season. They're looking for those next new 3 guys to step up. They believe that Tyler Thompson is that guy. Speaking of that McLean-Langley area, that rivalry game, the first installment of that went on last night. Langley got that game. A lot of extra innings games last night played in the openers for a lot of Northern Region teams. That was one of them. Chaz Ayub is going to be the ace for Langley. He's a guy that also has a heck of a bat, and he may even be the DH and first baseman. So
Wow.
really getting a lot out of him. It's a guy that has played a lot of sports over at Langley. Quickly on Woodson, John, you say that's a team that Jacob Morley is the heart and soul of that program, and then we're going to get to Stonebridge, Paul, for you before we get out of this Liberty District.
Well, they were 8-13 last year. I was speaking with Jacob Morley. He said the team attitude last year wasn't as serious as this year. They want to win this year. They returned 6 defensive starters, returned all 4 of their pitchers. Greg Whitaker is on the mound. He played hoops for them as well. Joey Carlton, a junior pitcher. When you have 4 pitchers coming back, a catcher coming back that's as dedicated as Morley towards winning and a new philosophy. A lot of times baseballs mental up there. Look out for the Cavaliers this year.
Okay, and speaking of guys to look out for, is Mike Stanczyk the real deal?
Definitely. He is going to be the person in the spotlight for the Bulldogs this year. He is going to be their offensive threat. He's going to be the leader on the field. What we have to look at for the Bulldogs is that, like I said, they lost 10 seniors,
Right.
and they lost their pitching staff. As Coach told me, they lost 90% of their innings. So that's something that people are going to have to step up for. One person stepping up to be a pitcher is Jaron Guevara.
Right.
You may recognize his name from the football team. Had an injury late last in the football season. He says his knee feels good. His knee's healthy. He's going to be pitching a lot of innings for the Bulldogs this year.
Comes from a long line of Gaveas out there in the Loudoun County area.
Very talented family.
You say they lost a lot of innings pitched, but I'll tell you one thing they did not lose, and that is Coach Sam Plank.
Definitely.
Coach Sam Plank has been with that program from the get-go, and he is I think, one of the best and most underrated coaches in the northern region, and that's why Stonebridge is always competing for a district title.
Posting an 85-48-1 record.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump right into the Patriot District. John, this is the team that we mentioned that's going to be a team to really look out for that is housed in this district, and it should be no secret to anybody that Lake Braddock, the region champion from last year, has a lot of arms back. Let's jump right into last year's standings and show the folks at home exactly where Lake Braddock ended up last year.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Lake Braddock, 12-2 in the district last year, 22-5 overall. They know something about preseason hype also. Hayfield, 12-2, 17-6 overall. West Springfield at 9-6, 14-9 overall. South County was 6-8 in the district, 14-10. West Potomac 5-9, 5-17 overall. Then you had a bunch of 4-10s in the district. Annandale, T.C. Williams, and Lee, all 4-10 in the district.
And you know, the Patriot District is always an interesting district. It always seems that Lake Braddock and Hayfield, West Springfield always comes with some good talent. And South County, boy, has just shocked the region in every sport, really, guys. And we're going to get a chance to talk about all these teams. But before we do that and before we talk about the teams, let's talk about the players to watch, John. In that Patriot District, who are the top players to watch in 2007?
Well, right at the top, you see Andrew Sanders out of Lee High School, the pitcher. He had 87 strikeouts last year and a crisp 1.98
Crisp.
ERA.
Very crisp.
You have Shane Halley there from Lake Braddock, one of the pitching duos. He had a 1.97 ERA, 5-1 record, important 4-1 strikeout to walk ratio over there. There is Mike Graham, pitcher from South County, another gem the Stallions have over there. We have Sean Chistaz, a Lake Braddock pitcher and also hitter, will be depended on to go both ways. And then we have Alex, and I'm going to butcher this name. I apologize. Here, it's just Alex H. from T.C. Williams. He had 3 home runs and batted .400 on the season.
All right. Well, hey, Alex, being that my last name is Kubarulis, I can feel for you, buddy. So I'm going to say your name. Catcher Alex Hersuka from T.C. Williams is a Titan that we'll remember. 3 home runs last year. 400 batting average. Had to get the movie reference in. But speaking of movie seasons, John, Lake Braddock had one of those last year. They're coming back this year. They are a team that is garnering a lot of preseason hype. The #1 team ranked. When we get to our poll, we're going to show the folks at home exactly where they're ranked. No secret, #1. But John, Sean Chitzaz and Shane Halley, really the reason that this team is getting so much hype. And I've heard in preseason scrimmages, they have romped their way through every opponent.
They can hit, they can pitch. They are the regional champs. They are minus Joe Infinante from last year, the regional tournament MVP. Some people might say, oh, they're going to be down. They don't have their hitting leader. Wrong. They can pitch, they can pitch, they can pitch. I will say it again, they can pitch. If you can throw innings, throw strikeouts, 4-1 strikeout to walk ratio shows you're getting men out. When I spoke to the head coach, he said, well, you could shorten the game that way. If you have a pitcher that can throw 9, 10, 11, 12 strikeouts, you only have to get a couple outs in the infield, and you have a solid defense, a great pitcher, solid hitting. That's the recipe for a possible championship team.
Lake Braddock is a team that won the Northern Region last year and actually went out early in the state tournament. Oakton, of course, advanced the furthest, as we mentioned earlier, all the way to the final where they lost to Monacan. Those two teams, guys, look to be the teams that could be back right in that position again this year. Madison, on the other hand, has a lot to say about that. They are fuming mad. They play their rival, Oakton, this Saturday at 3 p.m. at Oakton High School. Is nothing better than day baseball, a couple of hot dogs, and some good talent out of Vienna. That's where they grow them. But guys, out in the Lorton area, they're starting to put out some great talent, John. And looking over at South County, Mike Graham is a guy that I watched as a sophomore pitch in the region tournament. and he really mowed down some batters in quite a pitching duel. He really held his own as only a sophomore.
Mike Graham and Kyle Hall both have actually signed on to colleges already. That's how good they are. They are very confident over there. They return everybody, every single player from last year's team. No key losses. They add the Lake Braddock transfer, Austin Lindsay. He's a pitcher. They have a key 2 left-handed pitchers. It's nice to throw that in there so you can throw people off with the righty and lefty combination. Key stat for them last year, they allowed 4 runs or less 17 times.
Beautiful.
If you do that again, you will win a lot more ball games, both regular season and postseason.
And staying in that Patriot district, and speaking of winning more ball games, is Hayfield going to win some more ball games? They didn't do too bad last year, second place in the district at 12-2 in the district and 17-6 overall. Hayfield, though, John, can they compete this year?
Well, I apologize to Tyler McClenny. He was on our players to watch list. I forgot to mention him. 6-2 overall record, 3.36 ERA. They will ride his arm this season. They have 15 of 16 of their players are upperclassmen, return a lot of players. They, like South County, allowed 4 runs or fewer 17 times last year. They're going to have to rely on Tyler a lot, get more consistent hitting. They can get better. It's just a tough, tough district to play in.
No one on our players to watch list from West Springfield, a team that finished 3rd in the district last year. Can they compete, John? What are they going to be, more of an offensive team, a defensive team? Do they have pitching?
They're going to be more of a rebuilding team.
Okay.
They return only 7 of 18 players from last year. The coach said it's going to be tough. They're going to need a lot of their role players to step up. Josh Brown, senior shortstop, Brian Deering, senior third baseman, are going to have to lead the way. But a good thing is for their JV team went undefeated 14-0 last year, so it's not like they're bringing up nothing.
All right, so for all your JV knowledge, tune into the Fairfax Sports Report every week, guys. But no, John, you make a good point. Bringing up out of your own ranks and bringing in some guys always makes for a good mix. When you have a successful younger program and bringing those guys in, you always have a more successful next year. So speaking of rebuilding, let's see if that has an impact over at West Springfield. Now, the National District has not produced the most competitive baseball teams, but Edison is kind of a team, like in every other sport this year, that has really been in a league of its own. So, Paul, take it away. Show us what they did last year to take that title in that 2006 final season standings for that national district.
Well, as you see, Edison, they're the only team above 500 overall. They were 11-1 in the district, 16-6 overall. You see the drop off there, Washington Elite, 7-5 in the district, but 7-15 overall. Yorktown 6-6 in the district, 10-11 overall. Mount Vernon 5-7, Wakefield 5-7, Falls Church 4-7, and Stewart rounds out with 3-9 in the district, 3-17 overall.
All right, and before we get too far, let's just jump right into those national district players to watch.
You see, you got a pair from Washington Elite and a pair from Wakefield. George Johnson, the pitcher from Wakefield, with a 2.27 ERA and 72 strikeouts. Joining him with Wakefield, Adam Webster, shortstop pitcher, 427 batting average with 26 stolen bases. Then you jump to Washington Elite, 2 pitchers, Mike Vitale, 1.08 ERA, Ron Jennings, 2.5 ERA. They should definitely make a difference in the national district.
And Mike Vitale is a diaper dandy
Okay.
out of Washington
Sorry.
Elite, guys. A 1.08 ERA, and he's going to be awesome, baby. Had to do it.
have
All right,
to.
guys, before we get too far into this baseball thing, want to remind you in just a couple of minutes, Lauren Trainer, 2006 Westfield grad, is going to be giving us our Fairfax Sports Report Alumni Spotlight. We're going to be bringing on a special guest with Lauren, and she's going to tell you exactly what that is. And guys, before we get to that, let's just get into our final graphic of our baseball preview.
Let's see it.
And that is what everyone is tuned in to see,
big reveal.
the Northern
Here we
Region
go.
Coaches Poll. All right, guys, right up at the top, I think we've kind of gave that one away early. Lake Braddock is the team to beat in the Northern Region, though Madison not far behind. That is the number 2 team ranked in the region, though they're ranked 9th in the country. So I think the coaches might know something that we don't know.
Coaches may disagree a little bit.
That's right, Oakton right there at number 3, the 2 rivals at 2 and 3. But I think if you look at the records between Oakton and Madison, which have played each other quite tight in the last couple of years, you may see that Oakton did really well in that rivalry game. Robinson John not far behind at 4. South County, the coaches have South County pegged at 5. Langley, a team like we mentioned earlier, Jeff Farrell's 7th year. They're going to be relying on Chaz Ayub. And number 7, we mentioned, they're always in the mix, Paul, Westfield.
The Bulldogs, like I said, missing those 9 seniors, but they are always a quality team. What's surprising is you see Chantilly right below them, finished last year 8-13, but the coaches are really high on Kevin Ford's team. You see Stonebridge, again, hit hard by graduation with Mike Stanzik and those 2 new pitchers. They should do well in the district this year.
And then right there, tied for 10th. A lot of teams tied for 10th, and I think these coaches are just maybe rolling the dice, maybe like we are. But this is the Northern Region preseason coaches poll. Loudon Valley and Herndon and Woodson tied for 10th at the bottom there. That is the Northern Region coaches poll. And that concludes our Fairfax Sports Report Spring Preview 2007. Come on back and join us with Lauren Trainer right after this break. As promised here on the Fairfax Sports Report, I'm bringing you Lauren Trainer, a 2006 Westfield grad, and she's going to be doing an occasional series called the Fairfax Sports Report's Alumni Athlete Spotlight. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is, Lauren?
Well, I'm going to start bringing you an alumni from the Fairfax area to see how they're doing on the next level. We're going to start off with Brandon Geyer. He's a graduate from Herndon High School. He is now currently playing baseball at the University of Virginia. At Herndon, Brandon played football and baseball. In football, Brandon holds a single game touchdown record with 7 touchdowns. In baseball, he was the career home run hitter with 13 home runs. Last year, Brandon was named Virginia SID All-State Second Team, led Virginia with 80 hits, 128 total bases, 30 extra base hits, including team high 19 doubles and 7 home runs.
Well, Lauren, Brandon is joining us on the phone tonight here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Brandon, I want to thank you for joining us all the way from Charlottesville. Lauren, take it away.
Thank you, Brandon. Yesterday, I know that you all beat Richmond 11-1. Can you tell us a little bit about that game?
Yeah. First, it started off with a great pitching performance from Pat McEnany. I mean, he came out, it's his first start of the year because he's been out with a broken hand. And he came out, pitched great, and that kind of fueled the whole fire for our whole team as we put together some key hits as the game went on. And just when it counted, we got good hits, and our pitching continued to pitch good throughout the game, and that was basically what got us the good victory against Richmond.
Well, Brandon, you also did very well. You led the offense with a 4-6 performance and 4 RBIs. Brandon, how was the transition from high school baseball to college baseball?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was pretty tough. One of the most toughest things about it was just basically getting used to college and playing baseball. Being a student athlete, you gotta learn how to put together both like just time management skills with playing the sport and also being a student at the school. So basically putting together the time management for baseball, which we practice about 5 hours every day, and putting that together with the schoolwork we have. That was probably the hardest part. And then baseball aspect-wise, just the game is just so much faster at this level, and just being able to learn from the older players and get that the 2 years experience that I've had have been great. And just definitely that first year was tough getting used to everything, but once you get that down, you're pretty good for the next couple of years.
I'm sure I can't imagine what you guys have to go through. With the 2000 MLB draft coming up, given your high achievements from last season, how do you feel your 2007 draft status is going to be?
To tell you the truth, I like not to get caught up into that too much. I mean, I felt good coming into this year, knowing that this is my draft-eligible year. And coming into college, I knew that I wanted to leave after 3 years if it was possible. So, I mean, it's in the back of my mind, but I really don't think about that much. I know if I just go out there and play like I always have and do whatever I can to help the team win, and really tell you the truth, all that matters is getting this team far in the playoffs, and hopefully we've been working hard to get to the College World Series in Omaha, so that's really all that matters to me right now.
Well, Brandon, I know you're real busy, but one last question. What do you miss most about the Herndon area?
Oh, man. I would have to say all my buddies back home. I miss my family, friends, and the whole high school atmosphere. I just totally miss that a lot, and I mean, I still keep in touch with my friends, but I can't go on any spring break or trips like vacations or come home that often. So I definitely miss my friends a lot and my family, but thankfully my dad and friends get to make it to a lot of games, so I get to see them then.
Well, I'm sure they miss you too, and I'm sure they're going to be watching you this season. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right,
Good luck.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, you saw it there. 2004 Herndon grad, still a record holder at Herndon for home runs on the baseball diamond and for single game touchdowns. 7 on homecoming, Lauren. That's pretty incredible.
I can't get over it. That's just amazing.
So, Lauren, every week you're going to be bringing us this segment. Now, folks want to give us some nominations for this. They can email to comments@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. They can go on the website. And, Lauren, again, that's comments@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Folks at home, you should know that Lauren is going to be bringing us this occasional series where she's going to be spotlighting basically an alumni, Lauren, as you mentioned. So tune in every week to see Lauren Trainer bringing you that alumni spotlight. Lauren, great job. I want to thank you for coming on, and we're looking forward to having you back.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, come on back and join us after this break here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Thanks for joining us back here on the Fairfax Sports Report. That's right, that was Chevy Chase. He is on the same channel as us, me and Chev. We go way back, guys. All right, so jumping right in to the Fairfax Sports Network's Triple Edge Lacrosse Report, of course, sponsored by Triple Edge Lacrosse. We're going to jump right in to our preseason rankings. Actually, that's week 2 of rankings. This is a poll done by the Northern Region's coaches, computed by Triple Edge Lacrosse. So this will be a Northern Region coaches poll presented by Triple Edge Lacrosse. Now, you can also find this poll in the Connection newspapers. This poll will give you the top 10 teams voted by the Northern Region's coaches for boys and girls. Right there up at the top, guys, no surprise, Robinson led by Matt Kugler, who went off last year in that region and state tournament. 160 points voted by the coaches. Previously, last week, the week before, in the preseason, they were ranked number 1. They stay right at that top spot. Oakton not far behind, Paul. That's a team that was really nipping at their heels.
You see Oakton and Robinson, the last 4 state champs at 1 and 2. You got Woodson with 122 points. Previously, they were at number 3. Westfield staying strong without Evan Royster, 100 points. Previously, they're number 5. Langley with 95 points. Previously number 4.
And, you know, Langley, you mentioned Evan Royster being gone from Westfield. Hey, there's Langley. They lose Robbie McClay playing at Vermont. He's a guy that was an All-American last year. Yorktown jumping up. That's really, you don't see that too much out of Yorktown. Chantilly right there, just a same story for Chantilly. They just, some way, they keep finding these athletes, and they've had this core group all year. Hayfield, it's a little perplexing there at 8. They are tied with Madison, but anytime you get underneath the top 5 teams, it's always a crapshoot, guys. And Jefferson in there, they're always pretty skilled with the sticks, with the nets. Those crazy kids. But hey, you're looking at Robinson though, guys, right there up at the top. Matt Kugler, he's a guy we're gonna get a chance to talk about more in just a bit. But I want to get to the girls' rankings as well, because there's some teams on there that you're gonna recognize. Right after the first official state championship last year. You know, they've been having these state championships now for quite some time, but they've always been unofficial. This was the first year last year that the first time in the state, the Virginia High School League sponsored a state tournament for lacrosse. Fairfax Sports Report is going to be giving you lots of coverage on lacrosse all year, as we were there at the region and state tournament last year. The girls, of course, they surprised everyone last year. Oakton jumping right over top Robinson. Such close games between those two teams every single time they play. And the girls' lacrosse scene, always dominated by those top 4 teams. Langley at 4. Woodson's going to be looking to reestablish themselves in that Liberty District. Langley won it last year. They won that district behind the Liberty District Player of the Year in Sarah Morris. Third-year coach coming back, Richard DeSoma, formerly of Westfield. Top 4 teams, pretty solid, Paul Frummel.
Definitely. You look when you get a little lower. West Springfield at number 5 with 46 points. You see it's getting kind of cramped there towards the middle with the points. Yorktown only 1 point behind at number 6 with 45 points. Lake Braddock with 43, only 2 points behind that. You see bottom 3, Chantilly, number 8 with 30 points, Annandale with 13, and Westfield with 11.
All right, and as you look at the rankings, guys, we mentioned this when we talked about baseball. Rankings are rankings. But in lacrosse, in this area specifically, there are some teams that are dominant, that continue to remain dominant. And when you look at some of these teams and what they've been able to put on their schedule, that is pretty impressive. This area, right trickling down out of the Baltimore area, which is basically the lacrosse capital of at least the East Coast. there are some private school teams that are pretty incredible. I want to give you a chance. I want to show you who Oakton is going to be playing this year in just their more difficult games. They've gone ahead and they've scheduled DeMatha. They've scheduled Landon. Of course, they've got to play Robinson, which of course is in their district, and Georgetown Prep. Let me do that again. DeMatha, Landon, and Georgetown Prep. Those are some of the top schools in the country that put out a lot of the top recruits that play in that strong ACC lacrosse conference as well. They really pull a lot out of this area. So John, though, you've gotten a chance, as we talk about Oakton being strong. Robinson is a team that has really surprised some people in the last couple of years. Always good, always kind of in the mix, but Oakton had dominated until that thing went official, then Robinson jumps up and wins that state title. Matt Kugler is a guy that you got a chance to talk to earlier this week.
Matt Kugler is, to quote a 20-something phrase, the bomb diggity.
Oh,
he puts
no,
up
he did.
great numbers, 55 goals last year, 31 assists. He was first team All-Concord, first team All-Region, but he's more than just numbers. You talk to the senior captain, he wants to be a role model on and off the field. He loves his math. He loves performing in the classroom. He says performing in the classroom is just as important to him as it is performing on the field. When I say he loves his math, I mean he's just a big...
You're calling him a nerd.
I'm not,
How dare
no.
you?
No, he's a very
Okay.
smart, intelligent kid. He's a very down-to-earth kid, and he's
Right.
a very academically conscious kid. Math is his favorite subject.
Nothing wrong with
He
that.
loves his math, but let's do a little math for the folks at home then, if we will.
Segue.
55 goals last year, 31 assists. He scored, count them, John, since you love your math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals in the AAA state championship game last year. He also had 3 goals in almost every single playoff game from the district tournament through the region and through the state.
As a junior.
This is really talking about a kid right now who is on the top to watch list in this area, competing with the rest of these kids out of these private schools, one of the top kids in this area. A lot of people see him as potentially an All-American, but really Matt Kugler, not the only big name on that team. There's another football player that's supposed to be doing really some great things with Robinson Lacrosse.
Mike Meyer, their head coach, Mike Meyer, the player, but their head coach said Meyer is their best all-around player. The defenseman is kind of the glue that holds the defense together, the glue that holds the team together. How Meyer goes on the defensive end is how Kugler goes on the offensive end. Those two have turned the Robinson program into a powerhouse. If you watch them in practice, they're a machine. They will just do drill after drill after drill. If the coach isn't happening, they're running laps up and down the field. They are just a well-oiled machine, and it will be really tough for them to be stopped this year.
All right, and guys, we talked about Oakton's tough schedule and what these teams out of the northern region have been able to do scheduling-wise. Let's talk a little bit, though, about Robinson, because I believe your schedule says a lot about your program. If a private school team that is so good is willing to schedule your team, that means that they think you have something to offer. And I think that Robinson certainly does, being the returning state champion with their top guns back. They're taking on Bullis, St. Stephen's. Of course, Lake Braddock is always strong. It's a game that they continue to schedule even though the teams are still not in the same district. Woodson, same thing, a strong team, not in the same district. And you've got Oakton, they always play, of course. And then Delaney, Gonzaga, and Landon, guys. Those are all top, again, private school teams.
Landon keeps on scheduling themselves some tough Northern Region opponents with them and Robinson. It said, like you said, it says a lot about you. They are willing to step outside of their comfort level, per se, and go to the private level. Because a lot of times in this area, especially in certain sports, the private schools where people have a measuring stick, that's how good your team is. And when you're willing to schedule that many private schools, that speaks volumes of how good you think your team is and how good the private school thinks you are, because they're not scheduling a dog.
I'm going to do the schedule rundown one more time for one more team on the girls' side because I want to show the folks at home that the girls are also getting this attention as well. They've scheduled National Cathedral, Stone Ridge, O'Connell, St. Stephen's, St. Agnes, and Holton Arms. So anytime you're scheduling those top contenders in the private school ranks, again, it really shows what you have to offer. And what we have to offer is the Triple Edge Lacrosse Poll. We're going to get right back to it real quick. Want to show the folks at home in this Triple Edge Lacrosse report the top 10 for the boys. Again, Paul Frummelt, Robinson, Oakton, Woodson, Langley right in there, as we mentioned. Earl Brewer, the coach of the Saxons, right at the 5th place spot underneath Westfield, always bringing back talent.
You see Yorktown with 74 points, previously in 7th place. Rounding out the top 10, Chantilly, and the Hayfield, Madison, and Jefferson all tied. Well, Hayfield, Madison tied in 8th place, Jefferson in 10th.
And let's jump right into the girls lacrosse top 10, presented, of course, by Triple Edge Lacrosse. John, Oakton, and Robinson fighting for the top spot. Just 11 points behind the Cougars are the Rams as voted by the coaches.
Then you have Woodson there at 3rd, Langley at 4th, West Springfield, the Spartans are at 5th, Yorktown is 6th, those Festy Bruins are 7th. Then you have the Chargers of Chantilly at 8th, the Annandale Adams at 9th, and the Westfield Bulldogs round out your top 10 at numero 10.
Right there, that is your Triple Edge Lacrosse top 10 as voted by the Northern Region's coaches and presented by Triple Edge Lacrosse. Tune in every single week to get that Triple Edge Lacrosse report here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Guys, as we get out of lacrosse, we're going to jump in, as in the closing minutes of this episode, we're going to jump right into softball. I want to just pick your brain as to kind of who are some of the top performers. You look at the region, Paul, you lose Oakton's Jesse McCarrick. You lose some of the other bigger pitchers. Brianna Harris from Stonebridge. They went into the state final last year. There's not a lot of big names, but there still are a few. Hero over at Westfield, to mention one.
She should be the top pitcher in the region this year. A .58 ERA with 156 strikeouts last year for the Bulldogs. Coming back as a senior, should be really strong. Need to mention Caitlin Delahaba from Broad Run. Now, you say Broad Run, Loudoun County, AA school. See, look what Stonebridge did last year. Look what Brianna Harris was the state pitcher of the year at the AAA level. Now, Caitlin Delahaba is really something special. I mentioned Piro's .58 ERA. Delahaba, .253 ERA.
Let's talk a little bit about her, though, because this show does go out to Loudoun now a bit in the Verizon network. Let's talk a little bit about her, because she is a girl that transcends, I don't care what region you're tuning in from. This young lady is absolutely incredible, one of the best out of Broad Run since Christy Anch dominated. When let's compare her a little bit. Christy Anch in one season had a 0.00 ERA, guys. Okay, that's not a mistake. 0 was her ERA. Caitlin Delahaba, she had a .253 ERA last year, but how many strikeouts, Paul?
She had 336 strikeouts on the year, and that 2.53 ERA, it's not as flashy as .00. She gave up 6 earned runs in 25 games. That's how you get that an ERA like that. Coach Ed Steele over at Broad Run told me she deserves everything that she's getting. She deserves it because she works hard at it. He said she's one of the hardest kids he's seen working in the off season.
And anyone that is familiar with this area and what they provide for our youth in this area for softball will know that the Pony Nationals being here has really helped, draw the youth out to this sport, and pitching has always been strong at Broad Run. John, real quick before we get out of softball, let's talk about Dorian Shaw. She's the girl that has been really drawing a lot of attention out of Robinson. A lot of coaches talking about Dorian.
Dorian Shaw, Paul interviewed a coach that this week said they can't wait to get her out of the region.
Westfield coach Dean Farrington, who Shaw hit a bomb against Westfield in the Concord District Championship game, says one of the farthest balls he's ever hit, and just jokingly said, I can't wait till she graduates, and I can't wait until we stop having her hitting home runs off of us.
Well, speaking of a girl that has hit a couple of home runs in her time, Langley went 20-5 last year, and Bridget, I'm going to botch the name, Debois, a girl that's going on to the next level. 3 home runs last year. She hit over 500. She's the third baseman. She's only one of 3 girls returning, going to the Division I level that hit over 500 for Langley last year. Langley's a sleeper. Watch out for the Saxons. And one more pitcher to mention, Katie Reinex from over at Herndon is going to be a girl to watch on the mound for the Hornets. Thank you for joining us on the Fairfax Sports Report. And before we get going, we want to thank the folks that make this show possible and also make the FSN Game of the Week possible. The VHSL AAA Girls Basketball State Championship will be televised on demand currently. You can get that on your on demand. And this week on Channel 10, check fairfaxsportsnetwork.com to see when the VHSL AAA quarterfinal girls basketball game between Edison and Forest Park will be played this week on Channel 10. Hey, we're on the web, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Pictures of us, bios, everything you need to know, ladies. And CCI Screen Printing, one of our stellar teammates at 703-978-0257 for all your screen printing needs. Want to thank Quality Care Ford Service Center for servicing all makes and models at 703-383-6299. And special thanks to our teammate Triple Edge Lacrosse, sponsor of the Triple Edge Lacrosse Report, weekly on the Fairfax Sports Report, www.tripleedgelax.com. Check them out on the web. Well, guys, that was an action-packed spring preview, but before we get going, got to do this. Do it every episode. Region pick for baseball winner. Do it quick.
Robinson.
Madison.
I'm not going to make mine.
Oh, we always do that.
I'm going to hedge my bets, and I'm going to wait until later in the season. Hope you folks will come on back and join us throughout this spring season. Thanks for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report.